Okay. We are good to go.
Awesome. So welcome everyone to our second episode of Spinster versus Spinster, where Kelly and I choose one movie that one of us either loves or the other one feels is underrated, and we discuss it. And we just have a nice, fun, unstructured chat.
Overrated, not underrated.
Underrated. See, already my bias is coming in for this movie. So anyway, we choose one movie, we discuss the good points, the high points, the low points, and just have a fun, very unstructured conversation around this film. And so the choice for this month, for our second year anniversary, is a movie that I am obviously very passionate about, and it is the 2016 Canadian supernatural horror film, The Void. This is a film that was written and directed by Stephen Kostansky, who I had met at Horrorama last year, and I literally fangirled because I love this movie so much and got to talk to him about H.P. Lovecraft and stuff like that. Was also written by Jeremy Gillespie, and these two gentlemen are actually part of what we call the Vestron 6, which are a bunch of Canadian horror directors and horror directors for a lot of indie films. So, yeah, and as much as I love this Void, The Void, you could probably see back in my screen, I actually have the movie poster above my TV. I also wrote a monthly pick about this movie, and I just can't talk enough about how much I love this movie. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with Kelly, because I'm pretty sure the first time I ever said anything about this film, Kelly was like, I didn't like it. I'm like, we're getting into this.
And as a side note, pardon me, I will remind everyone that the video portion of Spinster versus Spinster is a Facebook Coven exclusive. So please join us over on Facebook in our Facebook group to actually see this happen in real time.
Also a reminder, these episodes are full of spoilers because we are getting into this movie, all movies that we talk about. So just let you know, spoilers ahead.
Yeah, so if you've seen it, we're going to ruin everything for you because we're going to talk about everything.
So
yeah, so for me, I remember a couple of years ago when this movie came out, and it was being marketed as, which may or may not be of the fault of Vestron 6 folks, but marketed as this 80s horror retro, lots of practical effects, it's gore, it's Hellraiser, but also blends in Event Horizon. And watching the trailer, I thought, oh, fuck yeah. This is going to be something I am into. So I actually went to see it for the first time in a theater. It might have been a Rue Morgue Cinema Cobb monthly showing. I was on 4 hours of sleep. So I didn't like it much when I first saw it. And this is going back a couple of years, and I hadn't rewatched it since. Though I did think that it deserved a second watch because, again, give everything the benefit of the doubt, I had 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nothing is interesting when you have 4 hours of sleep generally. So I was happy to go about this, and I was hoping that my mind would change. And I watched it today, and sadly, I liked it a bit more than I did the first time.
Okay, a notch up.
A little notch up, but I would never watch it again.
Oh, well, that is understandable to everyone to each their own. I know when I saw this movie being advertised in Rue Morgue magazine, and people all talked about how it was very reminiscent of John Carpenter and Clive Barker and Lovecraftian horror. So of course you use the word Lovecraft, and I'm already in. I'm already into this movie. Yep. And I saw it at a late night screening at the Mayfair Cinema here in Ottawa.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was surprised you're gonna be awake for it.
Yeah, it was freaking, I think it was 9 o'clock at night. I'm I'm usually in bed by 8. I don't normally start movies after 8 p.m. because it's just, I always fall asleep. But I was wide awake the entire time watching this movie, and I was just so entranced in this film. And then when they announced, when the Blu-ray release was announced, I think I got it from, oh gosh, I can't remember. I think Sevron or another. No, I don't think so. Anyway, I had gotten it from one of those not local, but really big horror movie distributors that are really popular online. So I ended up getting it right away. And I'm okay, I got the Blu-ray. It was just one of those movies I knew I needed to own. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jess. Is this movie still in your top 5 horror films of all time?
It is. It is.
Oh my God. Again, bold claim, just like Suspiria. Bold claim. Okay. Tell the world some key highlights and key points that you love about it. And we'll
Oh
go
my
from there.
goodness. It's funny because like all my notes are just like, oh, this is amazing and this is amazing. Okay. So what I like about it is it's Lovecraftian horror. It has cosmic horror. And I'm pretty sure like when I talked about this very early on, I mentioned cosmic horror and you're like, what is cosmic horror? And I'm like, well, like if you read H.P. Lovecraft and you're like, I don't read H.P. Lovecraft. Like tell me this again. So, but it's very like of that realm of like everything is so ominous. It's so big and so scary, like this world of like this unknown cosmic entity that is like watching over us and can influence and change people. It is. I love the score. I love the color scheme. Like, and I realize that, and I like think like just hanging out around you and Brandon more, and like watching more colors in movies, and I'm just like I just love the bleakness of it, the damp, the cold. Like you think about, I'm like, oh man, like it must be so abandoned in this decrepit hospital. It reminds me of like just like scenes in Lovecraftian novels like The Village of Dunwich and just how decrepit, how old everything is, and everything feels so ancient. I've discovered that I really like small town horror movies. So I really like it when you
Yep.
are introduced to like a group of ordinary citizens, like a group of community of individuals who know each other so well. And that's what it's like in The Void, like Daniel and Allison and Bev and Dr. Powell and Maggie, like they all know each other. They all know each other's family. And then it's like very much like Stephen King in the sense that you have this small community, they all know each other, but yet there's like these deep secrets within this community that eventually come out and being like this whole terrible darkness. Like there was a point where I was watching this film again. I've seen it like 5 or 6 times now. Watching it, I was like, oh, was Daniel's father like one of the cultists? Could he have been in league with Dr. Powell or was he sacrificed? Because Dr. Powell talks about that in the film. He's like, oh, your father gave your life for the greater being, your son, now you. Uh, yeah.
Well, you're right. Before watching The Void, I didn't really know anything about cosmic horror, and one of my favorite episodes of our podcast is the cosmic horror one because I learned a hell of a lot. And those two movies that we talked about, In the Mouth of Madness and Prince of Darkness, I liked a lot. Like I fell in love with Prince of Darkness. So
yeah,
historically, Lovecraftian horror, though I like the idea of it, it's very hit or miss. It's very, very hit or miss for me. And understand, like going into The Void, I can appreciate the Lovecraftian aspects of it way more than I did like 3 years ago when I saw it. So I respect that. I appreciate that for what it is. I know that cosmic horror is really hard to adapt onto the screen, and I think The Void does a good job of that.
It does.
A really, really great job. But the aspect of, and we talked about this, and I talked about this in the cosmic horror episode, of what's usually hit or miss for me and what I don't like is not what the cosmic horror is about, which is like I want character driven stories. I want an actual plot line. And The Void is essentially devoid of really a structured plot. Okay. And whenever I watch these movies, I feel like they're incomplete. By the end, I'm just like, but what? I just need a bit more information. I just find that they're incomplete and I'm missing something. Okay. I'm feeling left out. Like there's something missing out of this whole thing. And that may even be the point. But is that just for me? Some people love Lovecraftian horror like you, but then there's people that just aren't into it. And that's me.
Yeah, and I guess like for me, like I see The Void as like this is literally like a couple hours in time of just sheer mystery and madness. And that's what Lovecraft is. Like this is literally just a short period of time of mystery and madness. You'll never really know what's going on. You'll never really know what Daniel was seeing. What is that triangular form that he keeps seeing? What is this vastness of space? And there's that other element of too is it creeps me out because it's like this otherworldliness, this other being that could be hiding, like these vast elder gods that could exist somewhere on the edge of space. And we already know that space is terrifying. You know, it's so vast and it's so dark. And you see those beautiful images of like the structure in the sky and the dark fields and the storms. And you're like, where is this? What is this other world that makes us humans look so tiny and so small in comparison to it? What do you think about the practical effects, though? Like, In
Oh, the
terms of like the
practical
monsters.
effects are fantastic. The creature designs are
Yeah.
great. And when I first watched the movie, again, it might have been like the difference between watching it in like an old theater compared to like in HD on my big TV at home, but it was much more clear, much more bright. I remember it
Yes.
being very darkly lit when I first watched it. And I was like, is
Mm-hmm.
this an Alien versus Predator scenario where it's so darkly lit that I can't actually fully appreciate these monsters? But watching it today, I could see that it was very well lit, well lit enough that I can actually appreciate these monsters. So, oh yeah, which brought me, to mind like tons of other movies. So, creature effects, creature designs, a thumbs up from me. I can appreciate that gory, gritty, bloody mess for sure.
For sure.
Into that.
And also too, like I had that similar experience where I saw the film in an older theater, and then when I owned it, I watched it on like a small TV screen. So when I watched it again, is on my brand new bigger screen, like I said, in HD, and I was like, oh my god, like seeing some of the images just was very changing, because I was seeing things I wasn't necessarily seeing before on a smaller screen. And I love the creature effects; they really creep me out. And I especially love when they go down into the basement and they run into the room of all the doctor's creations. And it always reminds me of the Cenobites, because the way they all start revealing themselves is like they're just coming out of the walls and they're just like this deformedness. And you're like, that's very visceral. And I'm pretty sure I did like the Instagram story of the one creature like slamming its head against the pole.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene actually was the highlight for me out of the whole movie. So I can really appreciate that within like 10 minutes, they get into it. They get into the weirdness. They're getting into the horror. You don't know what the fuck's going on yet. It's very weird. It's going to go someplace. It, for me, it doesn't go anywhere. And it's just like, it gets into it. However, if you're going to get into everything very early on, you got to keep that pacing up. And I don't think they did that very well. And again, it made it just gotta be a bit of a slog for me sometimes. And like, you have to, if you're not going to build up some characters, which in the end, I didn't care about any of these people. But again, you're not really supposed to per se, because they're meaningless. Okay. Whatever. But if you're going to get into it, you got to keep me engaged. And I didn't find it overly compelling. Like, yeah, you have these cool monsters and these great effects, but you're just not keeping it going. Your pace, again, I found the pacing to be a bit off. So I did not find it very engaging.
Okay. At first when I was thinking, I was like, oh, like I like the pacing of it, but I can understand like there are moments where it gets really slow and you're like, oh no, you're going to lose me if you don't get back into it again. For me, I really enjoy how visceral some of the effects are, some of the scenes that happen, like when Bev stabs a kid in the eye and then you turn around and she's like shearing off her face, and I'm just like, whoa, you just got right into it, like you're not holding back. And then when she turns into the creature, it's terrifying. And it was interesting too, because I was because obviously the film, there's a lot of tentacle images involved, and that tends to happen with a lot of Lovecraft and Lovecraftian horror, these images of tentacles. And I had this thought, and I was thinking about it again today, and just like, why are we so afraid of tentacles? What is this? I'm fascinated. I don't think tentacles, I think, are really interesting. I think octopus and octopi are very fascinating creatures. They're very mysterious. And I was actually researching online earlier. I was like, why are we afraid of tentacles? And I was like coming up about, I couldn't even pronounce it, but talking about like the phobia of octopus and how there are people out there who are really afraid of tentacles. And so I like images of like how that's being used in horror, right? Because they're all over the place. And we see this in The Void with Bev, like both the father and the son, like they target the tentacles as they're coming out of Bev. And then earlier at the end, where the reborn daughter of Dr. Powell comes out of Maggie and is literally dragging Maggie behind her, but she's got these tentacles that are coming out.
I feel like tentacles are, well, I feel like overall humans don't like creatures that have more than 2 to 4 legs. Okay. Like spiders, centipedes, millipedes, more legs, the more afraid we are. It's like very alien. We can't relate to that. Like our 4-legged creatures in the animal kingdom, pretty much like our mammals, our avian species, some of our reptiles and stuff, like we can get that. But if you have, let's say, 6 legs, 8 legs, like you're just getting into like weird territory. And like tentacles are, they kind of seem like they have a mind of their own, and there's more arms that we can't like control. Like that is, maybe it's a control thing. But
Maybe.
so we don't understand it. And as we know, humans like to fear the unknown and what we don't understand.
Well, it's interesting.
Tentacles. Yeah.
Well, and that's what, because I'm not tentacles I don't think I'm not afraid of tentacles. I think they're fascinating. I'm actually afraid of snakes because they don't have legs. They slither on their bellies, and I just can't handle
Stall
any.
muscles.
Yeah, if it doesn't have legs, it creeps me out. Like, maggots and centipede. Well, I guess centipedes have like little legs, but so I think tentacles, they don't scare me at all. But we do have they come up often in horror. Like a monster has some form of tentacles, and they're very terrifying.
Yeah, that's very true. I forgot that Art Hindle was in this for a blink of an eye. The sheriff that comes in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, Art Hindle's is in this. Oh, he dies very shortly on. I was like, man, you have a legitimate actor in this and you kill him off. I didn't like that because like the acting is fine. Like it's very fine. And you get Art Hindle. Come on. And you kill him.
Can you refresh me and maybe the listeners who don't necessarily know who Art Hindle is?
Art Hindle was the super babe in Black Christmas. He was the young good boyfriend of one of the girls.
Okay, the one who's
like terrible Bob one.
Yeah,
the other
one who's like, damn it, my girlfriend's missing. You do something about it. We're like, oh man, okay. Oh man, that's awesome. Okay, so he's probably done some other things too, though.
Oh, I'm sure he has, but I just know him like he's quite infamous for Black Christmas, another Canadian classic. Wonderful movie, folks. So he was in it, which was really, really fantastic. I still don't understand. So we have this opening, which is like a very shocking opening of this guy coming to the house. He runs away and a girl comes out. They light her on fire. I still don't know why those men are involved in anything. What are they doing there? Who are they? Why were they in that house? What was happening? I don't understand their place in this whole thing.
And I think it has something to do with. Yeah, I thought I did know, but like you end up learning that something happens with Vincent and Simon. So somehow some member from the cult or something like that like massacred their whole family, and I guess they're out there hunting these people down. But yeah, it doesn't go into detail about it. Like they have a very limited connection to it. Like it's very I don't want to say it's very minor, but maybe it's just the fact that they had there's a connection to this cult. Like somehow they were tracking these people down because they obviously had to track down this house to find all these druggies that are being used by the cult members, Dr. Powell and his cult members, to change into creatures and to figure out essentially like cosmic life after death and being reborn. So yeah,
sure. But why don't you tell us who these people are? Because even by the end, I was like, did I miss something? I've been very focused on this movie and I have no idea who these people are and why they matter. Yes, they had some trauma. Yes, somebody's wife and child died. Fine. But why the fuck are you here?
Yeah, they're essentially just hunting down the cultists and hunting down all of these people who were part of this cult leader. So
sure. How about movie? You'd be a little bit more,
I think
forthright with some of your information.
Well, yeah, I guess that comes where like that mystery element to it is we don't really know and we're kind of like briefly learning about various things. And I think that they're also added to add that sense of conflict, right? Because obviously like they barrel in and they're just like, we're just going to kill everyone here. And we don't care. And like Aaron Poole's character was like Daniel. He's like, whoa, like I'm a cop. Calm down. Like it's all gonna be okay. And you see him as a character, changing. He's as interesting because this time around I realized like he's very much a dick the whole time. Like even though he's trying to calm everyone down, he is not like super nice to his ex-wife. And not even ex-wife, because he's like, no, Allison is his wife, but because she lost the baby. And I guess something happened between them, but I know I like the scene. He's like, look, I have every right to be pissed off at my wife right now for what she's done. But I like her character because she doesn't fuck around. She's just like, this woman's having a baby. I am a medical professional. I need to go and get the supplies I need. Yeah. So I like her character in the sense that she doesn't fuck around. Right. Yeah. It's kind of sad how she gets captured and transformed into like the what was my note? I called her the cosmic mother, right? That she had, after, like, they were estranged because they had lost a baby together. But in the deliveries room, Dr. Powell kind of turns her into a cosmic mother that allows for, like, his daughter to be reborn. And that was, that scene, that imagery is very interesting.
A lot of tentacles.
A lot of tentacles too. But also, like, I think another element that I really like about this film is the mystery around the cultists. Like, you want to know about these people. Like, who are these people? Where do they come from? They just show up. They're wearing all the white with the triangles on their face. The complete adoration of Maggie that she has for Dr. Powell. And she's like, I am super willing to be a sacrifice. So to allow your daughter to be reborn again, and how all the cult followers will follow them, even though it leads to their deaths, because they believe in something that is older than God and older than death, which brings up that interesting element of cults and the idea of cults, and why people get involved in these cults, and how they have these feelings of complete adoration, these complete, like, we will do whatever we can to achieve the end goal that you are, talking to us. And obviously we've seen this in real life, how far, being a part of a cult will go to achieve the ends they want.
For sure. And they come, like, armed with very large knives. And again, like, I understand that a lot of this has to be super mysterious, and I just need more in my films if you're going to entertain me. I have a question for sure, and it might be super obvious, and but where does that doctor's power come from? Like, how does he have this power to transform people into these monsters? Where does that come from?
Comes from the void. It comes from
the cosmos.
It comes from the cosmos. It comes from the deep cosmic, right, of being and ofness of the older ancient gods, right? So he may have that, because he talks about how he's like, when you're so ravaged by grief and by loss, he's like, you will find things in the darkness that you never thought you would ever find before, right? So there are obviously things in this world that, that he says in the movie, but, like, in our world, is like, there are deep, dark stuff probably hidden away that we know nothing about. And that's kind of like how Lovecraft horror is kind of like they talk about how there's these elder gods that exist, but you can only find out about them through the Necronomicon, that it's actually being kept away in a library somewhere deep away.
Yeah. Do you think that because you are a spiritual person and believe in a lot of that type of stuff, does that, you think, make you like Lovecraftian and cosmic horror more? Like, you can just, like, get into that more, and that kind of, like, world and that atmosphere, and, like, you can just suspend so much disbelief, or so I guess suspend your belief on a lot of things to, like, really get into it and immerse yourself in it?
100%. I can immerse myself. I get really freaked out by it, because I'm just like, we talk about the things that we can see, but what about the things that we can't see? Or what about the things that we don't know? Like, it's like, I'm rewatching all of Unsolved Mysteries. I'm like, why do people just go missing? Like, what is happening?
Where do they go?
What are all these strange things in the world that are happening? So that's why I can really get behind that kind of cosmic horror entity, because it's like, it's part of that vastness of space. It's part of that vastness of the world, that really we are just, like, really minuscule in comparison to a larger threat, right?
Sure. As a non-spiritual person, I think that might be something that, I don't want to say holds me back from enjoying it, but, like, I just can't immerse myself in it because I just don't have those beliefs. I don't believe in all of that, any kind of, like, otherworld, deep-seated abyss somewhere with whatever and energies, and, like, I think it's just, like, too far-fetched for me. That I think watching it, though, like, sometimes it's, like, visually very cool to see, and sometimes pretty grim. And again, I love grim shit. I really wanted to love this movie. I think it's better to read. I feel like I just really need to read it, because I think it just works better if I'm reading it. But I just can't get into it as much, because I was like, nope, that's just, like, too far-fetched for me, and that's not something I can, like, believe in. So it's hard for me to believe that these people believe in it, and, like, why is this even a thing?
So I love that you said, like, I need to read it to understand it. And that's why I'm like, then don't read Lovecraft, because when you read his stuff, you will not get understanding. Like,
Right.
it will literally, and that's why I love so much about this film, is that it's like, even though it's Lovecraftian inspired, it's not, it's not derived from any of Lovecraft's writing. It's along the same element of, it just gives you just enough to like wet your whistle to be like, yes, I want to know more, but you will never know more. So it drives you crazy, and then it activates that fear center of like, well, oh my God. And that's what happens with like a lot of like Lovecraft's writing, is that he just goes into just enough detail to make you want to know more, but he'll never tell you the rest. And there's a lot of times like the story just ends, and you're like, well, Jesus, what the hell? Like, when I read At the Mountains of Madness, like, he goes into like so much detail. Like, he tells you about, tries to describe the undescribable. And I remember going back and having to like reread parts, because I'm like, I totally missed something, but it's really creepy. And then like he ends it with like, oh, and then I'll never tell you what I saw. And I was like, what? I want to know.
Right. I think that might have been misunderstood.
Okay.
Not that I would get more of an understanding. I think I would just get more out of reading it than watching it. Because I feel like I don't really want to listen to true crime podcasts, but I love to watch a documentary. I would love to watch a movie based on like real life events, but I don't really want to listen to it. So maybe like more listening or reading, like cosmic horror. I just would get more out of that. Again, it's just like, it's hit or miss. I've also watched a movie called The Endless, which you'd probably love, Jess, because there's just like, for me, I call it Lovecraftian nonsense. That's what I call it. And it's like, nothing really happens, but it's like cosmic horror weirdness. But people loved it. And I was like, no, I don't care about this movie. And like, but sometimes it's like, again, it's hit or miss. There's like movies that have like Lovecraftian feel to it. Like, let's say The Thing. That has some cosmic horror into it, The Beyond, those types of things. Like, sometimes I really do like it. And this movie kind of just, unfortunately, it just kind of fell flat for me.
Okay.
It has some elements that I like to watch visually, but it just was too far-fetched. And like, watching it today, also have to say the score was like very forgettable for me. I barely even noticed that there was music ever playing. But like, I'll second your love of their usage of color and their cinematography and that type of thing. I did also enjoy that. Watching it today, I really saw that it's heavily influenced by a number of films: Event Horizon, Hellraiser, From Beyond, The Beyond, and even The Thing, probably more. So it's like heavily influenced. And honestly, I'd rather watch all of those other movies than The Void. Because what they did, I just think they do it better. Like, The Beyond, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, very little plot. Pretty much very little plot. Which, again, these types of films, a lot of his films, but also these types of like Lovecraftian adjacent influenced type cosmic horror, weird horror films are usually minimal plot, but like I found that very compelling. I find all of those movies very compelling and amazing for what they are giving me. And I just feel like The Void took a lot of these influences and then didn't really execute it. But it might also be just because it was way heavier on the cosmic horror aspect. And again, to me, I just don't find it that interesting to watch usually.
Okay.
Yeah. For my feelings. My scathing review. I love other stuff that the Astron 6 folks have done. Manboard, the editor. I own them. It's great. But like this one, sorry, Steve.
Well, that's understandable. Because that was one of the things that people were saying in the very beginning. Like, there's mixed reviews about The Void. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It's gotten, some people have rated it 2.5 stars out of 4 because they found the plot hard to follow. Some of it felt low lit. Some of it's like 3-5 stars. These random coincidences. So there's like a lot of like, there's mixed reviews. It holds a 78% approval rating, on Rotten Tomatoes. For people, it feels nostalgic because it has that low budget 1980s horror, and that's what Astron 6 is known for. They're known for their practical effects and working on doing that, going back to that era of building your horror based around the effects that you're building. Totally. I just think for me, in the sense, I realized I have a soft spot for Canadian horror. So I really love the fact that it was a Canadian group that went out and did this film. They filmed it over they filmed it in Canada in November 17th of 2015.
Yeah, man. Canadians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me Canadian horror. Great. I also love Canadian horror.
Yeah.
When it's good.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. But also, too, so because I really like H.P. Lovecraft, like, I love H.P. Lovecraft's stories. And let me be clear, as a person, no, I do not care for him. I know he's problematic, and that is kind of like where I'm in this place of trying to, like, separate the author from the work. I know he's problematic. He came from a very problematic time as well. But the ideas and the horrors that he writes about are very interesting to me, and I find very fascinating, and it's an interesting realm and universe. And his stuff is really hard to bring to screen. It is not easy, and people have struggled with bringing a lot of his stories to the cinematic screen. There are some really bad ones out there, and I own them. Like, I literally, if I find something, I own them. If I find something that is Lovecraftian inspired or is an adaptation of a Lovecraftian story, I will buy it. I have Dagon. I have I have another one. I think it's the Unnameable. I had, so I really I would gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
And some of them are really bad, and some of them are really good. The Reanimator, I love Reanimator.
Oh yeah,
it is
totally.
Not. It is not a close adaptation of the original stories. It's actually like kind of like a blend of of all the Reanimator stories. Herbert West's a Reanimator, and same with Bride of Reanimator. They pull elements from the original Lovecraft stories into that movie. So it was just nice to see that being brought to screen and seeing them actually. To me, I think they do a really good job, because it's really hard. Like Guillermo del Toro has been trying to do At the Mountains of Madness for ages now, and it's not easy to film. It's not easy to bring that horror to the screen and really have people be affected by it. And this is what I like about The Void, is that they show you the horrors, but they still like hide it away. And it's just this vastness I love. And the only other film that's really done that really well recently is Color Out of Space. And that is one I recommend people to see, because the short story is really good. And then they did such a good job doing that one. And Nicolas Cage is really great in it. So I recommend people see that as well. So it's like Color Out of Space is kind of like up there with like The Void in terms of just bringing that Lovecraftian cosmic imagery to life for me.
Okay. So last thing, let's talk about the ending. So, and I know this is like very decisive between folks.
Yeah.
I know you love the ending. I don't like the ending. Yeah. So for me, so we get to the end. One, are they dead or are they the souls? I don't get that, because I would feel like that woman Beverly is super dead. Also because he hacked her to pieces. Yeah. So is this like her soul that's now in this like other realm, so to speak? Quote unquote. Are they dead?
I think they're dead.
Well, she would have to be dead, but like Aaron's the actor's name. Daniel goes into it not dead, stabbed but not dead. So are they dead?
Yeah, and he chopped up.
Can you be dead? Can you be alive wherever the fuck they are? I don't know.
He chopped up his own wife.
Yeah.
In that scene, and he was stabbed, and he pushed Dr. Powell into the void, into the nothing, to stop what was going to happen. In my mind, I think that they are dead, but they are right. We all have these like we have these beliefs that there is, well, okay, we don't have these beliefs, but other people have these beliefs that there is this idea of heaven and hell, right? You die, you either go to heaven or hell. But what happens if you don't go anywhere? What happens if you end up somewhere completely different and you don't realize that it's something even more ominous and terrifying, right? And we don't even know where they were going, what that triangle, because typically there's a lot of symbols in this movie, and I remember like looking up like, what do triangles mean? What do all these circles mean, right? And typically triangles, especially triangles, are used in a lot of occultist summoning rituals, and and they use it to and then usually a circle goes around it as a form of protection. So clearly they've summoned something, some sort of portal. So they could be like in a completely, maybe they aren't dead and they are in a completely different world.
Different dimension or something.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So
Sure. Um, and watching it now, I still don't really care for the ending, but I get it a little bit more than when I saw it for the first time because the doctor is asking Daniel, like, do you want to see Beverly again? Do you want to be with Beverly? And he's like, yes. He's like, I will give you her or whatever. So maybe he has some kind of powers that can make her like not super dead and cut up. Maybe that's her soul. Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe he has magical powers, quote unquote. So maybe he can maybe do everything, anything. But for me, in that movie, that yes, you say the word bleak, and I do find that it is dark. It's very foreboding, as these films usually are. Like death is really the answer. Like you can go beyond death, quote unquote, for this. And I just found it a little bit too upbeat that they got to do it together. They're holding hands and are facing the void. They're facing the abyss together. And that's just like a little bit too positive for me. I want everyone to be alone because in death, you are truly alone in my mind. So I would have liked them to be alone.
You know, it's interesting you say that. Like in terms of like Aaron and Allison, sorry, Aaron Poole is the actor. Daniel and Allison. Being dead together in the void. I actually have a different beef with the ending in the sense of I find it interesting that the son and the nurse in training survive. Because it's very unlikely that you would think that they would survive. They do survive, and then they make it out. And so a part of me wants it to be even bleaker and be like,
nobody survives.
No one survives, or one person survives and they've gone mad, which is much more along the line of Lovecraftian novels, because everyone like they all go insane at the end. So, and that's a possibility. These people, from what they were, but like even then though, like the nurse, she just witnessed a cultist, and she just witnessed like the girl stabbing her. She didn't experience all that shit. Whereas the son, he saw a lot of weird stuff, and he experienced a lot of weird stuff. So it made more sense maybe for him to survive and her to die. So
she was just fighting in a room. I agree.
Like, so part of me was just like, okay, I would have preferred it if either everyone dies or one person dies, and it's not the nurse in training, it's the son. But because he can't speak, he can't talk about the horrors that he's seen.
Ooh,
and it's still these cultists could come back.
Yeah, I would have liked that a lot more too. Good eye. Yes, I would have preferred that. Also, I got to put my foot down. That ending was a complete ripoff of Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. So, folks at Astron 6, come on. That's like ripped from the pages of The Beyond.
Homage to The Beyond.
Homage my ass.
You know, like I said, like there's the scenes when like the creatures are coming out. It reminds you very reminiscent of the Cenobites coming out of the darkness. Like, okay, that's very Hellraiser.
Monster types are very like in the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill that we talked about.
Bev turning into the crazy creature that she does and has like the thing that comes out of her head. That's very much like the Thing. Right, so
seen people that have died prior, very Event Horizon. You know, they're being haunted by those that have died or they've seen die, people that they love. Oh yeah, it's just I was perhaps I just wanted something a little bit more unique.
Okay,
it was too blatantly obvious that they had all these influences. Just like you literally just did, which is like that came from this, and you can like pinpoint everything, and it's like less of homage, more just a mishmash of movies that were better than yours. Boom, 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 boom. Final thoughts, Jess. Final thoughts on The Void.
Well, you did bring up some good points about the film in terms of like where they're coming from and how sometimes the pacing can be off and pull you off it. But I still love this film, no matter what anyone says to me, no matter how much people can point out being like, I don't like this, and this is a ripoff of this. I get it. I see it. And part of me sees like that's an homage. They are paying tribute to the that came before them and what inspired them to get into the genre themselves. But like I said earlier, it's so hard to film cosmic horror right, and it's so hard to like make it feel and look good. And so I just like it because it does that. It does that for me, and I like keep watching it. I enjoy it more and more. And, even if I don't know so much about the characters, I really like the character of Allison. Even though she doesn't live very long, she is tough. She is, to the point. And the cultists are interesting because I think cults are kind of fascinating yet they terrify me at the same time. Like it has a lot of elements that do actually terrify me, and that's what I'm looking for in horror films. Sometimes these days, I'm looking for the things that scare me, and that does. So yeah,
well, there you go.
Those are my final thoughts. Yours?
My final thoughts is that it's not scary. None of that stuff scares me. But again, that's going to be based on personal preferences and personal, fears. I wouldn't recommend people watch this unless like a very niche market of people that actually appreciate and enjoy Lovecraftian nonsense horror, which is I'm going to call it in quotes for the people listening to this. Visually, yeah, it looks pretty cool, but I'd rather watch all the other movies that influenced it because I think they just do it better. And yes, great that you're Canadian. And yes, I do like what you guys put out, generally speaking. It's just, it fell flat for me. And that's why I think it's overrated. Well, that's it, folks. That was the next edition of Spinster versus Spinster. I think the next one might be on Midsommar because, fuck, guys, I got thoughts on that. And they're not positive.
No, I think the next one we're going to do is one that I don't like and you love. So
let's try. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to find one. I'm sure we'll be able to find that. But again, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.